What is going on, everyone? Phil here, and welcome back to my Game of the Year awards for 2016 countdown. If you haven't seen the first two parts yet, I strongly recommend you check those out first so you watch everything in order and it makes sense. You'll find links to both of those videos in the description of this one. But without any more delay, let's get right into it with the continuation of my countdown. Here we go. Honorable mention, Pokemon Moon. Although I'm a fan of the Pokemon series, I really haven't played many of the games. I actually played the original Pokemon Blue back in the 1990s, and then more recently, a couple years back, I was able to play the Pokemon Omega Ruby re-release that was remastered for the Nintendo 3DS. Outside of that, I know about the series, I've seen the anime, but I never really played too much of it. So this year when Pokemon Sun and Moon were released, I was pretty ecstatic to be able to play a brand new Pokemon game at release as an ongoing playthrough. I really enjoyed Moon, the game out of the two which I selected. First of all, yes, it's the tried and true Pokemon formula where you get a starter Pokemon, but there's a lot of variations in this game that make it feel like a new experience, including going around several different islands and fighting island kahunas rather than going to gyms and fighting gym leaders. It definitely adds a little bit of a different spin to it. In addition, there are some gameplay mechanics like the different kinds of elemental stones and things that make your Pokemon super powered that I definitely enjoyed, and some of the new Pokemon and their really cool unique evolutions for the Alola Islands made it really fun and different. You know, seeing those classic Pokemon look and act differently in a new game really was an awesome thing. So I definitely enjoyed Pokemon Moon, especially, the fact that the game is so long and has so much content. But I really would not be able to put this as a Game of the Year pick simply because I didn't even check out most of the gameplay. I didn't do any online play. I did very few trades or anything like that online. I didn't do any of the post-game content. Although I could probably tell you if I did, I might have made this one of my top 10 picks. It wouldn't be fair to the other games. So therefore, Pokemon Moon, awesome. Probably one of the most challenging as well Pokemon games that you've played in recent memory. Actually, a few battles in this game are very challenging to the point where it actually ramps up the difficulty and makes it feel like it's more than just a kid's game. I loved it. I think you'll love it too, especially if you've been away from Pokemon for a while. This is probably the game to go back to. Definitely check it out. But now back to the countdown with number 6, Final Fantasy 15. Yes, that's right. A game 10 years in development, although most will say that, it was reshuffled and canceled and restarted about 3 years ago. This game was a long time coming and had a lot of expectations and hype to live up to. In some ways, I feel that it did, and in some ways, I feel that it didn't. If you want my full thoughts, definitely check out my in-depth review right here on KO Gaming. But in a nutshell, I enjoyed the wide variety of gameplay, missions, battles, enemies. Taking classic Final Fantasy enemies and finally putting them into modern graphics was an awesome experience. And some elements of the story, likable characters, really outstanding graphical presentation, all of these things added to a game that I definitely feel is a Game of the Year contender. However, the only reason this game ranks as number 6 and not higher on my countdown is because of two critical factors. Number one, the game is unfinished. As you play through it, you will definitely tell that the story was rushed. Halfway through the game, you're pulled out of this awesome open world environment and thrown into this very linear, limited, not very good story that just feels like it's unfinished. Characters are never really fully explained what their motivations are or who the hell they actually really are. And it's already been announced by Square Enix that they're going to patch in at a later date more cutscenes and more elaboration because people were so confused playing through this game saying what happened to the story. In addition, the second factor here, the combat. When it works, it's amazing, it's streamlined, it's focused, it's free-flowing, and it feels like something unique and different, a big gamble for a Final Fantasy game. But then there's times when it just doesn't work. Whenever you're indoors, in closed quarters, in a cave, the camera will get stuck. You have to constantly be fighting and adjusting the camera in order to actually see what the hell is going on in combat, a lot of the times leading to cheap deaths and you having to spam healing items because you can't actually control the game fully. It's a shame because I said this in my full review. I feel if this game were finished and more polished, it probably would have been the best RPG ever made. But as is, it's still an awesome experience with some dozens upon dozens of hours of gameplay content. It's still a bang for your buck, but it's just a little bit disappointing because of its shortcomings, but it still makes my top 10 favorite games of the year. Number 5, Inside. From the makers of Limbo, Inside is a 2D side-scrolling adventure starring a silent protagonist, and if you've played Limbo, you're probably saying this sounds really similar. It pretty much is the spiritual successor to that game. There's a lot of ominous things going on in Inside. Yes, there's awesome puzzles. Yes, there's unique platforming elements, cool lighting and graphics, but there's also this eerie aura of something that just isn't right. It almost seems like a post-apocalyptic world where something went wrong and everything was destroyed. Humans are mind controlled, and in certain puzzles you actually have to have them do things against their will in order to open doors and progress in the game. The end of the game has one of the biggest what the hell moments I've ever experienced in gaming. It's just inexplicable how weird some of the stuff in this game is. I really enjoyed Inside. I mean, it's number 5 on my top 10 best games of the year countdown, so obviously it's resonated with me all year what a unique and fun experience this game was. The only complaint I have about it, they don't explain the plot. And I hate this with these indie games. They feel the need to have an ambiguous plot line going on that keeps you guessing, gee, what's happening? What is this the entire game? And then by the time it ends, you never actually get any kind of an outright explanation. I really do feel that's a cop-out. I don't like games that make you have to try to figure out for your own mind and your own mindset what really happened in the game. Just give me a definitive plot and explanation and we'll call it a day. But outside of that one critical flaw, Inside is an awesome 2D side-scrolling platformer with some of the most innovative puzzles I've ever played. If you skipped it this year, I strongly recommend you check it out. You will not be disappointed. Number 4, Doom. You know, in recent years, we've had a lot of series reboots that just kind of fizzled out or didn't live up to the expectations of the original games. Doom was the complete polar opposite of that. id Software brought this one back in full force, combining more modernized gameplay elements with some of the more classic grueling ones. Sure, yeah, it's a little bit harder to die in this reboot than it was in the original games from the 1990s that put first-person shooters on the map, but they have so many classic elements like gauntlets of enemies, seeing the classic enemies return in a modernized setting, tons and tons of hidden rooms and items, allowing you to have full breadth exploration of the stages rather than just rushing through them to beat the game as quickly as possible. But it also combined it with outstanding graphics, a variable frame rate that allowed the game to perform well both on PC and consoles despite your hardware settings, and also a robust story with interesting characters. This game hit it on all cylinders. Oh, by the way, I didn't even mention the unique level creation tool that came with the game at launch, as well as all the robust online play, including competitive modes like deathmatch that you expect from this kind of game, but also some unique modes where you can actually control some of the monsters and characters from the actual campaign. Doom definitely lived up to the hype. And if you didn't check it out, shame on you. A lot of people hear the name of a classic game series and say, it's being rebooted, it's just going to be a cash-in. Doom was the opposite of that. id Software did their job. They single-handedly revitalized classic first-person shooter gameplay with this game, and I cannot wait to see what they do with it in the future. Maybe they'll even reboot other franchises like Quake. My God, would I love that. But Doom was an outstanding game in 2016. That's it for part 3 of my countdown, everyone. In the next and final part, it's the top 3 games of the year going at it, as well as a final honorable mention. Be sure not to miss it by subbing right here to KO Gaming, and if you enjoyed this part of the countdown, please consider giving this video a like as well. Be sure to check the video description for links to my Patreon, as well as my Loot Crate discount link, and a few other fun things. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all for the conclusion of my Game of the Year awards very soon.